Matevž.
Hello everyone, my name is Matevž Straus and I come from a company called Arctur from Slovenia. And today I want to present to you how we've weaved into the weave a project that has been happening in Slovenia partially before the weave and partially during the weave project, and also how then the weave project enabled us to in a way finalize the whole thing and come to a conclusion that is now also publicly presented. And I want to start by looking at the Register of Immovable Cultural Heritage in Slovenia. So you see the Slovenia, each of the red dots, of course, is a registered immovable element of cultural heritage, and for us it is an opportunity for a story to be presented, for a legend to be told, a topic raised or an issue raised. And of course digital technologies here can be of help, because using digital technologies we can present these stories, we can tell these narratives. And on a very simple level, I think that we can all agree that, of course, we can look at the castle that way, as a ruin, but using digital technologies, we could look at the castle also that way, and using a reconstruction, an attempt of reconstruction, tells to a wider audience much more than just a ruin. It's also, of course, such a reconstruction opens many questions, many dilemmas about which we can talk. Of course, because every reconstruction, digital reconstruction, is an attempt of reconstruction. We never actually know how it was, and of course, the more time has passed, less we know, and more it's about speculation, meaning that more questions can be raised and more discussions could be raised. And I think this is good, having such discussions, and of course involving people in these discussions. But of course then comes the question, how do we present this to the people? And I think we can agree that having a web app is a next step, let's say. So it's not just about an image, it's about an app that narrates the story, that guides people through these digital contents. And of course, another way is through the VR experience. I'm just now showing different modes. No, we skipped the video, sorry. Anyway, how this started in Slovenia was with a simple idea, of course, that we need to start digitizing cultural heritage, immovable cultural heritage. Of course, for many in our communities, it's quite obvious because of the documentation about preserving cultural heritage. But these are the projects that I'm explaining are not projects that have been done by cultural heritage institutions. They have been done by tourist destinations. And for tourist destinations, talking about digitization of cultural heritage, it's like, why do we need to do this? So for them, of course, it's much more important to know other reasons also, like attracting new visitors, creating more interactive experiences. And of course, finally, creating new opportunities to involve creatives in the processes, and managing tourist flows. Because if we have different experiences on different parts of Slovenia, different parts of the country, we can redirect people from the overcrowded and over-touristified locations. So in Slovenia, this started with trainings and workshops that we've been running. So the main idea was we had tourist destinations who had no experience in 3D digitization of cultural heritage, who actually had no experience in cultural heritage itself, talking about why this is important, how to do this, and how to proceed. And of course, here we had to agree on on many of the standards, let's say, on the technical guidelines. What is a 3D model? How do we 3D digitize? Because this is something that is still very much part of a discussion. What is a good 3D model? And we know that also within the European Union, this is a very important issue. And of course, we came to a conclusion that this is not a technological project. This is a project that is interdisciplinary, where we need to involve very different expertise. Of course, having in mind that as tourist destinations, the final product is not a 3D model, it's a tourist experience. And this is something that we've tried to present through a booklet, let's say. And then we started. So this is a project that has been done throughout Slovenia by different tourist destinations who have been procuring these services individually. So we as Arctur have only been working with some of these locations. And we've worked on 40 different monuments. Some of them are presented outside on the screens. And all of these models are also part of the 3D Weaver asset manager that I've been presenting later, and are also part of the Europeana collection now. So, you know, later today in the afternoon, we'll be talking about the 3D digitization processes, but in general, we have used photogrammetry and laser scanning. Also 360-degree capture to capture immovable cultural heritage of Slovenia. This is a process that starts at the terrain, at the locations, but then moves in the companies, at the computers where basically the processes are running. And the more experience and the better computer that you have, the easier it goes, but of course, not always so smooth as wanted, because it's still depending on the data that has been captured at the location. For those of you who are not familiar, so photogrammetry is a process where several images of an object are taken from different positions. It's a structured way of photographing a monument or a building or an object, and these images are later collected in a way that they form a three-dimensional object. So you have two-dimensional images that are overlapping slightly, each of them is overlapping, and more of two-dimensional images finally create a three-dimensional object. And this is how we start. We start by collecting, by recording what is at the location, and moving on, trying to create these attempts of reconstructions, where of course, as I said, it's not a technological, solely technological project. It's a project that involves different expertise. And when we are talking about an attempt of reconstructions, we need to involve heritage professionals, because it's these argued or substantiated speculations that we need to raise and that we need to visualize finally. And this is a challenge, how to visualize something that you don't really know how it looked like. Of course, to some degree here we are, at some point we are saying, okay, we cannot continue further. It's just too much speculation, we need to stop. Which, again, for a tourist, this is a bad thing, because a tourist is used to watching Game of Thrones and Hollywood production. They want the full effect of 3D visualizations. And here we are deciding, okay, we won't give you full because it would be just too much speculative. And these are then the data, the contents, digital contents that have been put into different experiences. Either it be virtual reality experiences, augmented reality apps, different holograms. We've been creating different rooms where we've interpreted this cultural heritage, different interactive screens, and so on and so on. So we as Arctur have worked on 40 different objects, different buildings, and we have created 15 different experiences. And part of these experiences have been upgraded. So now I'm, like, you see, adding more and more layers of where to go from a 3D model onwards. And they've been created, weaved into digitally enriched tourist experiences. So these are, let's say, half-a-day experiences that are on-site experiences, partially physical, involving food, involving guides, involving riding with bicycles, walking around the different monuments, but also virtual experiences as an addition. Because we have to acknowledge that when interpreting cultural heritage, parts of that interpretation are best done still with a physical human being. No matter how good you are at technology, you cannot replicate a physical human being and the interaction that he or she has with an audience. But of course, there are other parts where visual technology and digital technology can be of help, and this is especially when we want to visualize something, when we want to involve a person on a visual and audiovisual dimension. And when creating these tourist experiences, we have to have that in mind. And now I will try to present you a video but I don't know where to run it. No.
Move your mouse to the right to go to that screen.
No, this is not it.
Is the video running there?
The video is integrated in the PowerPoint, but I cannot click on it. Anyway, we skip this. The most visual aspect has been hindered by technology. Anyway, within the whole national initiative, overall more than 110 3D models of immovable cultural heritage have been recorded, and these models, thanks to the Weave project and thanks to the 3D viewer of the Weave project, are now part of Europeana as well. The other digital media has been, of course, also created. But what I think of such project is the most important is the new connection that have been established. Here I'm talking about a different way of getting content and a different type of content providers, tourist destinations. I don't think that many of the tourist destinations across Europe are contributing content to Europeana, and this case maybe is one of the indicative cases how these things could be done, of course, when they're accompanied and guided through this process. The whole initiative have also got an award. So the ministry who was behind it got an award, and hopefully this will continue. To supplement the video that you haven't seen, I invite you to the www.didk.si. It's a website. didk.si. It's a website that presents all these models and presents all the content that have been gathered around. So it's 360-degree images, it's videos, it's different experiences, different narratives. And you also notice there that it's already using a part of a tool that has been developed within Vive. So this viewer here that you see is an embed from the 3D viewer 3D asset manager that I'll be talking about later. And due to the Weave project, we've been able not to, in a way, gather the documentation that has been going on throughout Slovenia by individual local destinations that had different contractors, different technical operators. But within Weave, we managed to gather this data and now present it at Europeana as well. And I think this is important, that not just that we create 3D models and that we create different experiences, but that then we at the end do this final push and gather this data, not to get lost, because we all know how it is with digital data. You put it on the USB stick, and this stick goes to a drawer, and it remains there until somebody cleans the drawer and throws it away. And it shouldn't be like this. So I think this is an important part. For us at Arctur, this is one of the steps towards creating a center where we want to develop more of such projects, and we want to, of course, build on these experiences, connecting tourism and cultural heritage, digitization and storytelling. Of course, always having in mind that the data should be shared with the wider publics. That's all from my side so far. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Matevž, for the very interesting presentation of cultural heritage and how tourist destinations use it and can use it, all this 3D work that you're doing. So, any questions from the floor, from the audience? Yes, Rui, please.
Thank you for your presentation, Matevž. Actually, I have a question about the reconstruction. Do you have some specialists, architects, designers working on the reconstruction? Can you elaborate a little bit more on this process?
Yeah, so we work with different people that are also enthusiasts. I think this is important when you're gathering a team, that you don't just have a 3D specialist or 3D designer, but that designer is also an enthusiast. And in the case of the castle that I've shown, we had a 3D designer who is obsessed with castles, Slovenian castles. So this is good, because then that person much easier understands or is involved in the discussions with heritage professionals. Otherwise, the designer would just say, why are you bothering? I mean, I know how to do, don't tell me. But if you have an enthusiast, a person understands that, it's also a research project. It's not just getting instructions and getting a brief how to draw something. And as we had a person for castles, we had another team that is more inclined towards archaeological Roman remains in Slovenia. So this is important in creating the team.
Thank you. Any other question? I saw someone from the audience. Yes, please.
Hi, good morning. It may look like a quite silly question, but did you ever had any in your team working with lace makers? It is quite a big tourist attraction in Slovenia. I come from this kind of heritage, the lace and the lace making, and it is really a huge business in Idria and in the region of Gorica, Nova Gorica and so on. Did you have any kind of experience by digitizing lace pieces?
No. In this case, the project was mostly about immovable cultural heritage. But I personally come from Idria, so I know about lace making, and I also, in theory, know how to make lace. and we can talk later about this.
Thank you, Matevž. Other question? There were some hands that now are not there anymore. No? I have a question actually. Well, on this, I'm really excited by this approach of blended. You know, you have this 3D virtual, you have this guide, kind of, let's say, tour, the bicycle, you know, everything that basically combines this. Because I think this is a way to go. But my question is basically about the take-up. You know, do people do it? And you know, what is the destination saying about this offering? You know?
So here the goal of this final product was to create something that in Slovenia we call Slovenia Unique Experiences. And these are boutique tourist products. So these are tourist products that cost more than 100 euros per person. So this was the goal. So if we now look at the numbers won't be high because it was never the goal to have high numbers, but the goal was to create products that are so different and that are also in a way showcasing what the destination offers. Majority of people then won't go to these projects, to these experiences. And it's in a way it's similar to the fashion world. You have how do you say, like a fashion show, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What you see at the fashion show is not the same thing that you get in a shop. And this is how many of these projects then worked.
Okay.
Yeah.